Design involves taking information from the planning process and using it to plan the best alignment actually on the landscape. Okay, that's what we call trail design. Trail layout is actually going out onto the land, documenting the trail and figuring out where it should actually go in terms of the sort of micro features that are out there on the landscape. A big part of the whole process is that in the planning stage, the earlier stage, you've documented what we call positive and negative control points. Positive and negative control points represent places you want to go with the trail and places you don't want to go with the trail. Places you want to go with the trail are what make a national scenic trail a national scenic trail. They're the best parts of the landscape that you're going through. Natural features, historic sites, prehistoric sites that are open to the public. Those are examples of positive control features. Negative control points are things you'd like to avoid. Maybe industrial sites, maybe wetlands, that are going to take expensive structures and bridges. There could be endangered plants, endangered species habitat. That gets identified in the planning process. What we're trying to do in the end is design a sustainable trail, and that is easy to maintain and inexpensive to maintain. It provides for user enjoyment and satisfaction, and it keeps users using it and on the trail. A sustainable trail is safe to use, and it helps to protect natural resources and prevent damage from visitor impacts and user impacts. Some of the impacts could be to vegetation, could be to soils, could be to water quality, wildlife habitat. The key principle in designing and laying out a sustainable trail is to get the water off the trail and keep the users on the trail. And that's a big part of what we're going to cover today. Keeping users on the trail means providing a safe path that's a pleasure to travel on, with a firm, stable surface, gentle grades, and is easy to follow and encourages the user to follow it. It should flow with the landscape. In order to keep users on the trail, it means you need to understand the users, you need to make the trail alignment the best way to get from one control point to the next, and you need to appropriately use topography, vegetation, and structures that you build to lure people onto the trail. A big part of what we're going to talk about is design and layout tools to get water off the trail. That's the second part of our equation. The first tool is a resistant alignment. That's when you step back in the design process and you really look at the landscape and decide where in that landscape you can put the trail that's going to prevent problems later on. Resistant trail alignments are those that don't align with the flow of the water. The flow of the water generally is what we call the fall line. It's the straightest line down a slope. A resistant alignment doesn't follow the fall line, it crosses the fall line. It crosses it at as much of an angle as possible. If water's going down this way, we want our trail alignment to go this way, across the path of the water. So the water gets across our trail as quickly as possible. One of the tools to a resistant alignment is reversing trail grades. So obviously trails have to go up and down slopes. They have to go up and down changes in elevation in the landscape. Reversing the grade means that in no section of the trail do you continue on a downslope for too long of a distance, or vice versa an upslope. This is what a grade reversal is. It means changing the grade of the trail, the overall grade of the trail, so that water doesn't continuously flow down the trail tread. The trail grade is the elevation difference on the trail from one point to the other. 10% is what we'd like to shoot for as a general maximum trail grade. This means in the distance of 100 feet, the trail wouldn't rise more than 10 feet. The maximum grade on a given section of trail depends on the type of soil you're dealing with, the topography, and of course the user type. Another tool that we use is to outslope the trail tread. This means that the trail tread is not flat across its profile, but it's got a slope to it that will provide positive drainage for the water to always leave the trail tread. The outslope is across the trail tread. Okay, grade is longitudinally down the trail, outslope is across the trail grade. The outslope that we shoot for is about 5%. Now over a trail tread that's 2 feet wide, which a lot of our trail is, 5% is going to give you about an inch of difference between the upper side of the trail and the lower side. Okay? That's not much, but we have some tools that we can use to measure that, and over time you'll get an eye for it. The whole key with Outslope is that it's a consistent tool throughout the length of the trail to constantly be shedding water to the low side of the trail. Trail alignment is the key to providing outslope. Trails can't be outsloped unless they are laid out across the prevailing hillsides. You should avoid putting a trail in a flat area whenever it's possible. Another tool that we use is to actually change the direction of the trail, because water likes to go in a straight line if it's got a choice. You change the direction of the trail away from where the water wants to go, you can shed water that way. Now we're going to talk about trail layout. Trail layout is actually taking the design and getting it on the ground, marking it on the ground. A key step in doing that is putting out your flagging. We use ribbon to do a flag line, and a bright fluorescent colored ribbon is best. It's good to understand what else is going on in the area so that your flags won't get mixed up with other people's flags working on other projects. A flag line takes time and a lot of patience to set correctly. That's where you're out on the ground measuring your slopes, measuring your trail grades, making sure you understand the landscape, and putting the flags out so that other people, such as archaeologists or botanists or folks that need to see where that trail is going to go and where that ground disturbance is going to be, will be able to follow it. Putting out the flag line should be done with several people, and usually we start out loose and then you tighten it up over time as you make sure you understand where the trail is going to go. Okay, so this is kind of an example of a loose flag line. With a loose flag line, we're just trying to give ourselves a general idea of where the trail could go. We're not committing ourselves with too many flags, and just trying to get an idea of what it might look like on the landscape. So a lot of times with loose flag line, we'll tie on young green branches, just so that we know that they're going to be there. They're growing instead of dying and falling off. We might, we don't do a lot of vegetative clearing, a lot of disturbance, because we aren't really committed to this route yet. So you probably leave a lot of stuff in the way, and you're trying to just give yourself an idea of what the trail is going to look like. A key tool to putting out a flag line in most landscapes is a clinometer. A clinometer is a tool used to measure slopes. Clinometer is really important to make sure that you can stay within that 10% guideline for the trail grade, and also to understand where you can put in grade reversals. Okay, once you've got your loose flag line in place, you've gone through all your clearances, approvals, all the stakeholders have seen where the trail is going to go with the loose flag line, and you're ready to build. Pin flagging is a key step to be able to really mark the trail on the ground and give people a visual picture, the people who are going to build the trail, give them an accurate picture of where to go. When we're pin flagging, there's different strategies. People have different ideas about how to do it, but in general, for hand building a trail where you have a crew of people out there, a lot of people like to flag what's going to be the outside edge of the trail. That would be the lower edge of the trail. The reason you do that so as you dig the trail into the side of the hill, as you bench it, that pin flag sort of marks the outside edge, and you can make sure to get the surface of the trail down to the natural surface of the ground. That'll lead you to building what's called a fully benched trail. For pin flagging for a hand trail crew, we'll flag about every 5 feet, and you can see the flag line here. You're really getting a good idea now of where this trail is going to go. A big factor in determining how the trail is flagged is to assess the risks of the flags being tampered with over time. There could be times when you flag a trail in the fall and you're not able to have the specialists come out and look at it, the landowners, the stakeholders, until the next spring. You've got to assess, is that flag line going to be okay, or do you need to document it somehow? Documenting it could be using a GPS or marking it very carefully on a map, or taking notes and going back out in the spring and re-flagging the area to make sure that the flags are there and easy to follow. Before you start putting out flagging, you need to make sure that the owners or the managers of the land have agreed to allow the flags to be placed. This is really important so that people aren't surprised when they see a bunch of flags across their land. Because setting a good flag line is a big investment of time and energy and takes a lot of trips to the field, once you get it in place, you really need to document it. The best way to document a flag line is with a GPS, a Global Positioning System receiver. There are lots of them available now. There's lots of recreational models that do just great for what we're doing on the North Country Trail. We generally like to get our trail alignment within about 15 feet of where it is on the ground, and most GPS receivers will do that pretty easily now. A key when you go out there and record, the track it's called, is that you save it in a format that other people can use and that can be stored and put on a map easily. That format is called a GPX format. The North Country Trail Association would be happy to help you set up your GPS, and we'll take the data and pass it around to all the agencies if that's what's needed to be done, the landowners. So feel free to work with the folks in the Trail Association headquarters. A key part of using the GPS is the position error. Many GPSs will tell you what the error is of the points that you're recording. And again, we like to stay about 15 feet as a maximum position error on the trail. Let's just review what we covered. A fundamental principle about designing and laying out sustainable trails is to keep the users on the trail and get the water off the trail. Getting the water off the trail means designing a trail alignment that's resistant, that doesn't use the same slopes and the same grades that the water wants to travel on. You always want your trail alignment to be across the fall line of the slope. Other tools that we have are grade reversals, where you change the grade of a trail. The outslope of the trail, when you actually build the trail, it always slopes to the downhill side. And avoiding places where the trail is going to be in a flat spot. Other factors are knowing about the area that you're working in, knowing about your positive, your negative control points, the soils that you're working in, the type of users that are going to use the trail. Those are all factors that are really important for trail design and layout. One thing that I'd like to emphasize more than any other is to take your time. There's no rush. The Park Service is not pushing you to design and build a trail quickly. So take your time doing it, do the best job you can, put in a good flag line, document it well, try to use a GPS to record the location, and make sure you use pin flags before you go out and actually start disturbing the ground to guide the trail crew on exactly where to build the trail.